Earlier this year, back in February after the NAMM show, I flew up to Portland to hang out with Mike, the software engineer of the Solo app. Whilst we were kicking some ideas back and forth about upcoming features into the new version of Solo, I was playing his guitars a lot. Mike's got a lovely collection of guitars, and in fact 2 PRS Silver Skies. He actually has one of the super rare Nebula. He also has one of the original 2018 launch colors in Horizon Red. And so I thought I'd make that opening track and just shoot them out and talk about them here. And the other reason I wanted to do this and talk about it is because I think PRS at the moment are occupying a very, very particular important niche in the mainstream guitar world. Back when I initially reviewed and looked at the Silver Sky upon launch, I came to the conclusion that it was a very, very well made guitar. It sounded great, it felt great, but it was not for me, given the specs. And it was interestingly launched at a price point that was around the £2,200 mark or £2,500 mark. And what's led me to sort of want to revisit this topic and this guitar is I think that what PRS are doing with the Silver Sky is like holding a price point that doesn't really exist for this level of quality of instrument now. So really none of my opinions or views have really changed about the guitar itself. I still think now, coming back to it these 6 years later, it's still a great, well-made guitar. But what has changed as for me is the value of what the guitar represents and how important a guitar it really is in the current climate of mainstream mass-produced instruments. And that ultimately, whilst it's still not the guitar for me, I'm really glad that it exists. And I think it's really important that the guitar exists for several reasons. And even more so, it needs to outgrow John Mayer. I think that I can see a potential future for the Silver Sky to become the de facto sort of 3 single coil American-made guitar. At least that has the potential to be that, if it can outgrow the very sort of narrow specs of a signature model. But first, reflecting upon the guitars themselves, I got to play both the Nebula and the Horizon quite a lot, compare them back to back. And there are some minor differences as it happens, as there has been throughout the 6-year short lifespan of the Silver Sky. The core model has changed a little bit, but still very much within the sort of parameters of John's specs. But overall, what I find is a remarkable consistency in quality and sound from both the guitars. And it's not like there is a massive delta between the two. Obviously, there's a massive difference in price, but that's just the perceived value, or the value from the rarity of the nebula's color. And it really is a cool color. In some lights, it actually looks not too dissimilar to the Lake Garda blue of my main blue for Minori. But obviously, it's got that flip as you go around, and I'll drop some B-roll in. The Horizon Red is a little bit meh for me in terms of aesthetic color. I do like red guitars, but I prefer, just from a personal perspective, like a brighter or a faded kind of Fiesta sort of red. But that's just aesthetics. Both guitars to play and both guitars sound remarkably similar, and they feel, pretty similar really. And we all know that the Silver Sky has been a remarkably successful guitar, and which does lead me to believe that I think at some point it's going to transcend John, and I think it would be a good thing to transcend John. I think it could be, like I was saying, the next kind of de facto 3 single coil American made guitar if it can hold the line price wise, which leads me to the main point of this video really. PRS sit as a company in a really unique position. They are the last of the kind of big 3 mainstream mass produced guitar brands where the owner and founder is still very much kind of in charge and active within the design process, the build process, the running of the company. And obviously Fender and Gibson, that is no more. But with PRS, being from the 80s, they've always felt like still the third big player, the third spoke of the American-made, American company, that sort of USA-made prestige. And having Paul still there at the helm it feels like it's still like an integral part of what makes PRS different. And I think Paul, from what I gather, he can be quite a polarizing figure, and love the guy or hate the guy. There's no denying his utmost passion for the instrument and the continuing of that sort of tradition. And it's really evident within the guitars, the production and quality control themselves, to try to maintain a high level at a mass-produced scale, which I think is no small feat. If you look at somebody like Suhr, I think as they've scaled up and become more and more mass-produced, and the prices of Suhrs have had to go astronomical. And that really brings me to the main point of what I think PRS have done so well here, is holding the price point, not just at what the Silver Sky launched at, but we've gone through COVID and all through COVID and come out of COVID. And now the Silver Sky is very often discounted to below £2,000. So you can now go on to, like, I don't know, in the UK, I'm talking about here, go on to Guitar or Andertons or Peach or any of the kind of your preferred retailer of choice, I guess. And you'll often see the core models of Silver Skies for like £1,900 or £2,000. Hey up, Editor Beebs cutting in here just to show what I'm talking about here. Just chatting with Cordy on Messenger, and he said that they're back to 2,000 or 1,900 again at Peach. And yeah, this is I filmed this video a little while ago, so I'm editing it a bit later on. But yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So this just do a search on Silver Sky over on Peach here. No affiliation with Peach, not trying to sell guitars for them, but it's just to prove my point, is that my cat's dry heaving and coughing. So these are all the core models over on Peach, and they are pretty much all 1999 UK pounds. This is like rosewood board, maple board, all the different colours. This one, the faded black tea satin, is £1,000 more. But yeah, everything else is all in that. Well, it's all 1999. And it's not just like it's one guitar as well. So when you go in, if we go into this polar blue one here with the rosewood board, and like all these, they've got tons of them. And look at the weights, which is really interesting as well. They're all around £7 mark. So 615, 7.4, 7.8, 6.14. So some of them are a little bit closer to £8, but yeah, like 7.6, £7, £7.4. So, hey Clark, my cat Clark's gone deaf, and he doesn't know what he's shouting anymore. I can't hear his voice. So yeah, we've got, I think it's the same for all of them as well. So yeah, £2,000 across the board at Peach. I don't know whether other retailers will be matching that, but yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And that to me is a remarkable achievement. At that price point, it is almost hard to beat. It really is like a whole category difference ahead of like the equivalently priced Fenders. I'm not sure how it's possible. That what leads me to believe is it's a choice from a top-down business perspective of like, I know we're going to run these discounts or sales, or this is where, you know, the priority is the instrument, the priority is the quality. I think it's a really wise decision because like if you're a professional working guitar player, having the option of a really solid, well-made, you know, professional instrument for that sort of £1,800, £2,000 mark is quite an important thing. I think sometimes now when we look at new guitar prices and we think, oh my goodness, that's expensive. Well, that's because I'm kind of looking back to when I was 18 or 20 and not taking into account inflation and everything else. But really, if you know, it's not too far off, like 20 years ago, whatever, like £2,000 would be close to £4,000 now. I think the sad reality is that like the prices have had to go up, yet musicians' wages haven't. So it feels so much more expensive, and it is so much more expensive. But the reality is it's probably not much more when you're looking at equivalent quality for a Fender or other Suhr or a, you know, whatever it might be. Those prices are just higher. And that is the reason why I think the Silver Sky is so important. It's a USA-made guitar that is of pretty consistent high quality, sounds good, feels good if you can deal with the specs, and it's under £2,000 still in the UK, new as a core model. So yeah, this is my kind of weird semi-retroactive review of the Silver Sky. Sounds weird to say that on a guitar that still feels really new, but I guess a lot has happened in the last 6 years that we've all aged, maybe 2 decades. I know it feels like that for me, but not much has massively changed in my thoughts and opinions on it, on the guitar itself, to play, the way it sounds and feels, but the way the guitar sits within the current guitar market my thoughts on that have really changed. Back in 2018, a brand new Suhr was half the price of what it is now almost. That is bonkers to wrap your head around. When I bought my very first Sonic Blue Classic Pro Suhr, that was like £1,600 new, and now they are over £3,000. So this is what I'm talking about, the ramp up of the high quality American-made guitars that in price has gone so astronomical, yet the Silver Sky has just held where it is, and in some cases come down. So, and this is not a sponsored video in any way, shape or form. I have zero relationship with PRS, no contact at all. It's just a video I wanted to make based on some thoughts I've got about the guitar market currently. Although I should just say, of course, if you watch the channel, you know I do have a very good relationship with Fibonacci Guitars, the boutique handmade guitars in Hungary. And actually that's another interesting point, maybe for another video actually, but I am biased here, of course. Whereas Fibonacci kind of used to seem high-end and expensive, and they absolutely are high-end guitars, they no longer seem as crazy expensive when you compare them to like Murphy Labs or you know, the bolt-on Fender Strats now that are like £7,000, £8,000, £9,000. That's quite an astonishing thing. Like when you look at what you get for the thick end of 10,000 UK pounds now with Fender or Gibson, you can be looking at you know, brands much cheaper than that, like Fibonacci or even like Nick Huber and those other kind of boutique, you know, we've talked about K-Line before as well, how incredible those guys are. So I'd love to know what you guys think of the Silver Sky in the comments. Do you have any strong opinions on it either way? Has your mind been changed over the years since it's launched? I know when it initially launched, there's a lot of people hated it and then have come around to it. Maybe come full circle and hate it again. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of the Silver Sky. And if there are any other guitars in that sort of price bracket that you think sort of tick and fit the bill. Is there any other, well, I think I'm defining it out of existence by posing the question this way, but you know, there isn't another big legacy manufacturer, USA made, that's making a pro level guitar at that price point. I don't know. If there is, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for updates on the Solo app. If you'd like to support me, you could check out the app and the accompanying fretboard visualization course. All the links are down below. And obviously links to all my other stuff, podcast, Fibonacci guitars, of course, and my website and courses. And yeah, until next time, bye-bye.